All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Celebrating Widow Courage. My name is Kienholz, and I'm the Program Director for Modern Widows Club. Let me be the first to welcome you tonight, and thank you for joining us. Our format this evening will be the presentation of our 2021 and 2022 Community Report. It is primarily done by our founder and executive director, Carolyn Moor, but also throughout the time, you'll get to see some of your HQ team. And we serve widows every day. And I want to introduce them in advance just so you know who they are as they pop up. So first we have our program support manager, Cindy Toledo, and Cindy provides individual support for all of our community advocates, both in the US and internationally, as well as providing support coverage on our online and 844 number inquiries. Our communications director, Laurie, helps to establish and write messaging for MWC and manages all of our marketing projects and handles public relations issues and works with all of our media outlets. And I get to collaborate with the entire team on the creation and implementation of each and every one of our programs that we have here, including our Widow Empowerment event that occurs each fall. Now let me welcome Ms. Carolyn Moor.
Hey, thank you, Lynn. Hey, a very warm welcome to everybody. I'm excited. We had 145 champions, that's what I'm calling you, who took the time today to show support, or they're going to watch it later. You have taken an interest and a willingness to learn more, ensuring that widows receive the attention that they need, want, and deserve. Supporting widows today isn't just of interest to us, it's of interest to the many generations to come in the future. That's right. Widowhood is of great social significance and one of the last social issues to be addressed. We are all in a time of history where we can do something new, as well as life-changing for widows of today, and many who will come to us tomorrow. Social media and global communication have made it possible for us to reach out and hold hands virtually, give resources, support, and encourage like never before in the past. We can be there for her and care by meeting her right where she is, on her digital devices, her phone, her computer, and speaking in her native language with translation. Our adaptive leadership and our passion for prioritizing widow research drives us to make solid, data-driven decisions while making her voice the purpose that takes us there. You're going to hear that a lot tonight, her voice. Because at Modern Widows Club, we are paving the way to ensure that we change the culture of health for widows, because the culture of health for widows has never been a priority. Her voice has never mattered in the past in finding solutions and support, and we know this because she has not been given the opportunity to be researched, and her voice heard loud and clear. Something must change. We all here believe in her voice, and we believe it's ready to be heard around the world. Her voice is inspiring. Her voice has a lot to say about public health, women's health, women, families, and widowhood. Her voice has value. Her voice has facts. Her voice has needs. Her voice has hope, and her voice has healing. Her voice has purpose, and her voice has a future. From this point on, I want you to envision a new future for widows along with me. One where she is seen and heard, one where she's respected and honored, one where she matters and her voice is at every peace table around the world. One that we are all willing to champion and strive for. Modern Widows Club has come so far in 11 years, but in 100 years, I will not be here to see the impact it will have on the next 3 generations. Now, you know I love my legendary widows. So tonight I'm going to quote my favorite, Graça Machel, Nelson Mandela's widow. The quote that I find so inspirational and so appropriate for us is, "We are all drops of water in the wave of change." Together, we are creating a wave of change for good that will, with time, wash away the injustices, the invisibility, the forgetfulness, the lack of knowledge, and the neglect that widows have endured in the past. But the big question is, what will we replace it with? That's where vision and innovation come in, and I'm honored, really, to be a thought leader in that endeavor. I hope you will be inspired to join me tonight and to understand where we've come from, where we are today, and where we'd like to be in the future. There's work to do. There's solutions to identify. There's support to innovate and risks to take, injustices to reduce, and health equity to be found. When I say we are changing the culture of health for widows, I mean it. Because health for widows is not insured at the moment. It is not prioritized. But what if it was? What if every widow was seen as one of our most valued citizens and leaders of the family and experienced human flourishing? We all know that widowhood is the most stressful life event. According to the Holmes and Ray's stress inventory scale, she often experiences up to 290 stress points just becoming a new widow. With many of the other changes she's going through, she is experiencing incalculable stress in a short period of time. It's undeniable that widowhood impacts a woman's health, and this is a health crisis that has too long gone unaddressed. Who's clapping their hands with me, right? Let me state a fact here, okay? Widowhood is a women's health crisis. She hopes for a better future beyond her imagination, a future that holds new possibilities. I hope tonight you will hear the song beneath my words and identify what is really at stake here for widows. I pray you listen from your heart with curiosity and compassion, beyond judgment, and understand the sources of her distress. I hope you walk in her shoes, and I hope you come to a place where you feel like you can see and you can hear her. Many of you tonight here on this call are widows, and you're already living this experience. It's time we begin to invite everyone else into the circle of the widowhood experience. It is the only way for others to even just understand what our needs and wants and hopes are for the future. But our mission and vision here at Modern Widows Club is we care deeply about widowed women and their health. We are widow founded, we are widow led, and we are widow driven. We are widow power in action. I love that statement. Our mission statement is simply empowering widows to thrive. But how do we empower? Well, I think we give women their power back when they've been thrown into survival mode, survival mission. Widowhood is a survivor mission. I learned this from Dr. Stephen Southwick, the professor of psychiatry and PTSD and resilient science at Yale School of Medicine. Dr. Southwick is the author of this book right here, Resilience, the Science of Mastering Life's Greatest Challenges. It was a nugget of knowledge that he shared with me on our last phone call in April before he died after a long battle with cancer. I promised Steve that his work would continue on in our organization, and it will. I believe the bigger question and the challenge for our organization is, what do we value? Because first and foremost, I want you to understand we value her voice, your voice, if you're a widow and you're here listening to this. If we listen to her voice, we are guaranteed to be steered in the direction of necessary and audacious change. Through all our programs at MWC, we are empowering widows to thrive in a variety of ways so that they can seek to understand the widowhood experience, to assist them in creating a positive future and a purposeful life. And we hold diversity and equity and inclusion as key values. We welcome women of all ages, beliefs, faiths, partner statuses, ethnic backgrounds, gender identities, lost circumstances, all focused on growth versus grief and seeking empowerment. After tonight, you're going to receive a copy of the 2021-22 community report that we're going to look at tonight, which documents our values in further detail. You'll learn about our research data and the facts I'll be presenting this evening. We know the future of widowhood lies in our ability to advance the widow's health movement. We are a widow's health organization. That is what makes us uniquely different than anything else that exists for widows, because it's what we value. And because we are the subject matter experts and the thought leaders in this widow's health movement, we are holding up the sky while tackling very tough challenges. Lynn, can you bring up the community report and let's start sharing now. So page 1 is just the cover page, okay? You'll get a copy of this and I hope you'll take a look at it in depth tomorrow or sometime in the next couple of weeks. Now, page 2 is in their words. I just want to begin by sharing with you the first page of the community report because it contains, guess what? Her voice. She is the reason we are here. Her courage to keep going and rebuilding a life beyond devastating loss. So let's meet Diana. Now, her husband, Nathan, passed away from a sudden heart attack in December 2021. He was special, with a full heart and full of life and joy. Diana received the phone call, you know what I'm talking about, from a doctor that her husband had died. The goals and dreams for her future died in that moment. She says that the profound experience changed her and her daughters forever. She felt like she was drowning. Her brokenness was deep and her sorrow very real. She had a huge need for resources and she found peace with MWC when she needed us in her greatest moment of distress. I have one question. Do we believe her voice? She needed hope in a moment of hopelessness and she found it immediately. So, because we existed, she is #widow changed. Okay, so now let's meet Brunetta. She's been widowed twice. First at age 32 and again at 68 when her husband, Donnie, passed away from complications of a stroke. Brunetta felt misunderstood by many people around her. She felt lonely and isolated, even when she was with other people. She made great accomplishments, yet felt she had no one to share it with. So when she found MWC, she felt uplifted and she felt seen. That made her feel inner healing. She found a strength inside that was always there. Do we believe her voice? She needed to be seen, to be uplifted, and MWC gave her this gift. She is #widow uplifted. Now on the next slide, we're going to meet Kimberly. And Kimberly, in less than 10 years, she has been widowed twice. The most recent was CJ, who passed away from COVID. She was suffering when she found MWC after the first loss. And she found the other women in our sisterhood both inspiring and focused on growth, surviving and thriving. Even after 2 losses, coming out the other side of the pandemic, do we believe her voice? She needs community, inspiration, and a way to thrive, not just to survive. She is widow thriving. There's an MWC YouTube video of each one of these ladies so that you can go and hear more details about their story in their own words. We'll drop those links in the chat. And the other side of this page is our table of contents. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. I'm just going to go on to the next slide, but I just wanted to point out that that's where it is. So the next slide, I want to, if that's okay, we can stay here, Lynn, but a special note on that page, I want to sincerely thank Sherry Days, our graphic designer and our data analyst, and also our communication director, Laurie Rich. Put your hands up if you can, because both of these ladies, because of their in-kind donation to create this fantastic community report, it took them about 4 months' time to create this. Their creative talent and collaboration really made this happen. So I want everybody to put their hands up and applause, because this is something pretty amazing for us to have right now to share who we are. Okay, so let's start reviewing the rest of the report. We're right here on the page for the letter from the founder. So that's me. I believe the most important part of this letter and my statement is this statement right here. You can read the rest of it later, but this statement was, I think, the most moving for me. And that is, these are our grandmothers, our mothers, our wives, our sisters, our daughters, our aunts, our nieces, our friends. We love them, and so you love them, and so do we. My first and resounding thought in starting MWC has always been my hope just to reduce some of the suffering for widows. That has been at the center of my heart and what matters most to me. Each one of these ladies is a precious human being who is worthy of being honored. We're going to move on to page 5, and I'd like you to hear from Cindy Toledo, our program support manager, on how MWC is serving widows around the world. So let's welcome Cindy.
Thank you. Modern Widows Club is reaching widows across the globe. We currently have 4 affiliate communities in Kenya, Nigeria, India, and Israel. We receive inquiries every week from widows or widow groups wanting information about supporting their organizations, needing help in organizing and providing assistance with the marginalized widows in their regions. Widows in these countries suffer extreme stigmatism, extreme poverty, and often are unable to even take care of their basic needs. Obviously, funding is a huge issue. However, to begin with, we are able to provide the resources we have available on our website, which gives them some tools to start with. We dream of the day when all widows across the globe have the ability to be empowered. While not all widows might be mired in poverty, they are nonetheless traveling an unfamiliar road. One such widow in Nigeria was a professional woman owning her own business in Lagos. She has 2 young boys, and her first email to us was so distraught. After a few emails and a couple of Zoom calls, I'm delighted to say that I see her on Facebook, and she is happy, thriving, and making a difference in her community. This is what it is all about, reaching out a hand and giving a measure of hope, one widow at a time. Thank you.
So now we'll turn to the next page, Lynn. And this page is called 10 plus years of advocacy for widows. It's a lot of words. And I'm just gonna go through it because you probably won't be able to read it. but it contains, some really important information. We've taken her voice and we've harnessed its power to become the leading widow advocates in the widow's health movement. We share how it has evolved from a small community mentoring that started in Central Florida, right here in my home, to discovering the great need for a widow leadership program to be developed. But not just any leadership program, a program that uses her voice to speak up for a healthy, purposeful, and productive life moving forward. As her voice became more and more clear to us, so did our mission. From the expansion as an organic consequence of growth, our advocacy and research initiatives were born. Today, our greatest mission is to accelerate our pioneering work in widowhood research, solutions, and support, to continue creating inclusive spaces in which widows feel understood and valued, build new frameworks for awareness and knowledge about widowhood, continue implementing innovative ideas for widows with measurable results, and lead the way in changing the conversation and culture around widowhood health, telling the true story about who widows are: courageous, vital, strong, and resilient. Put your arms up. Some of the goals we met in 2021 into now is we leveraged our widow research to create the expansion of our clubs. Some of you may have taken advantage of our travel and our dating and parenting and art and book clubs, all of those free of charge to our widows to find connection. And our activities, such as having our widow empowerment event, the live one in the fall and the virtual one in the spring. We launched our Widow Empowerment School of Thought, WESOT, we call for short, offering evergreen e-courses and educational events from our multimedia platform. And we expanded internationally, as you learned from Cindy Toledo. We expanded our HQ team. That's why there's 4 people here doing this call and not just me. We streamlined our leadership training for advancing volunteer leaders. We conducted fundraising on International Widows Day, on Giving Tuesday, and at the year end. We moved our website domain to .com to .org, and that was huge. So let's just do an applause. If you've ever done that, you know what I'm talking about, how hard that is. So we're going to move on to page 7, where it says your generosity in action, okay? Now, there's a lot to absorb here as well, and I hope you would take the time, like I said, later to read all of this, because I cannot talk about it all on this call. But bottom line, more widows at Modern Widows Club were reached and served than ever before in our history, all during a pandemic. We didn't shrink, we expanded big time. Here are just a few highlights from this page. MWC and myself was featured on TEDx, on CBS Sunday Morning, and NPR. Yay! MWC launched a new website with new branding, which included adding Google Translate in 39 languages to serve the 39 countries that have more than 1 million widows. Modern Widows Club launched a petition to advance widows' rights nationally and worldwide that has garnered, get this, 131,000 views, 51 signatures, and 1,234 shares since this morning. We also launched 4 new communities, and we trained 24 new community advocates. We also have, we launched our Hope Box. Here, I'm going to grab one. I have one right here at my desk. We launched our Hope in a Box gift collection, and we raised enough money for 250 of those to be created. We also created our Widow Empowerment Quiz research tool. This quiz lets any widow determine where to begin on her Hope Heal Grow Lead journey. The resulting data was used in our first ever medical peer-reviewed article in the Sage Journals of Illness, Crisis, and Loss. It was titled Widowhood and Mental Health, Social Predictors of Mental Health Disorders Among Widows. Whoa, celebrate all this with me. Hands up. That's a lot. So next, we're going to talk about, on page 8, how we're the pioneers of widow research, okay? Most people do not know that the most stressful life event is losing a spouse. And widows face a statistically greater risk of illness due to this stress, in addition to the secondary impacts of widowhood, which can impact finances, households, and children. There are not enough resources or research available to help widows navigate this life change, a life change that will affect 70% of married women in their lifetime. MWC is changing all of that, okay? We are establishing that widowhood is a woman's health issue. This page and the next one shows the data analysis from the research that we conducted since 2020. I couldn't possibly go through this all tonight, so please go and read through this. You will be blown away. Because bottom line, evidence-based action and advocacy holds her voice throughout to bring to the forefront the great invisible needs of widowed women. And that drives our decision-making. We hope to inspire new medical protocols, develop relevant resources, and bridge the gap that needs building. We will continue to listen, and before the year is over, we will embark on a research project with Washington University in St. Louis, the Institute of Public Health, to develop a widow survey that will need your involvement to be an even bigger wave of change. So be looking for that in October and November. So on page 10, we explain what we did with all the research. We created this pathway for widows. It's called the Hope, Heal, Grow, Lead pathway. This shows in detail the framework that just shows how we're measuring the efficacy of our grief to growth approach to all of our programs, because evidence matters. Diagnosing the root cause of distress and the lack of effective support for widows matters, right? Every dot here represents her voice. We are changing the culture of widowhood because instead of using years as a yardstick, which is what most grief resources do, we envision widows progressing along a pathway from grief to growth while rebuilding her life. We meet her right where she is, and she knows where she is after she's taken our Widow Empowerment Quiz. It is an empowering moment for her to choose where she is and where to start. We provide tools and resources so her line of sight is grounded and research-based on thousands of widows before her saying it worked for them. It's unbelievable. Just this week, I was in Melbourne, Florida for our inaugural community launch, and I witnessed 20 widows supporting one another. It took place at Coastline Community Church, and it took 3 years to make that moment happen. I also heard from a dean of the New Life Church College in this small town of Conway, Arkansas. He was so inspired and encouraged by what MWC's efforts have done. He has engaged the entire freshman student class to focus on helping widows by mowing their grass, weeding their flower beds, and cleaning their gutters so that they can understand widows' needs better. I wish they were coming to my house. And then in Seattle this week, they released beautiful lanterns in the water during a lighting ceremony to honor and remember the loved ones that they lost. Very moving ceremony. In Ohio, one of the community advocates got parents to do a bake sale and got the kids to man the sales table, and they raised $2,000 for MWC. And at our 2021 Houston Widow Empowerment event last year, one attendee was a philanthropist, and she was so impressed that she sponsored 5 widows to be enrolled in our Pivot 6-month group mentoring program with me. We empowered and tasked out our community advocates to select who they felt was best to apply. That's empowerment. And it turned into a $15,000 contribution. When Houston widows suffered in 2021 from the ice storm and the power outages, we gave members somewhere between $100 and $500 hardship grants from our Love for Widows Benevolent Fund to help widows being displaced from their homes and to recover food loss and needs that were lost and forgotten once it warmed up outside. When our Kenya, Africa community advocate, Rosalind, expressed a hope to attend our 2020 Widow Empowerment event in Scottsdale this fall, our LA community stepped forward and funded her flight and her hotel. Every little bit helps. We revolutionize how we serve widows in many ways, long after anyone else knows to do it, or cares to. That is what courage does. It moves us to be proactive. Her voice matters. It is a catalyst, and MWC is giving her voice a platform to change culture and history for widows. Now we're going to go on to page 11, and we're going to talk about the gap between need and funding. And with every great movement comes the reality that there will be challenges, big challenges in our case. And that requires adaptive leadership, patience, relentlessness, a strong stomach, feedback, consultants, and a great courage. In order for widows to be empowered to thrive, we need Modern Widows Club to be empowered to thrive. We don't do this alone, so that she won't have to do this alone. The pandemic impact has been hard on us, yet we rose to the challenge when it came to reaching and serving widows globally. When I first sketched out this graphic you see right here, I did it on a scrap piece of paper. I sent it over to Sherry Days, our graphic designer, to make into this pretty image that you're seeing today. But I broke down in tears because this chart says so much about our values to uphold her voice and to see her. It also shows how financially painful this pandemic has been in reality, in the background of a nonprofit doing good things. All I can say is our funding has dropped significantly as the need for our services has skyrocketed. All I can do is be coolly realistic and unwaveringly optimistic that this will not be our story tomorrow or next year or the year after that, because we have great work to continue. And to continue, we will need all hands on deck and maneuver through some complex decisions going forward in order to get to a better place. In 2019, we were blessed with capacity building funding like never before to establish our brand, to build our staff, to solidify our operational structure, to be positioned to serve on a higher scale. And we accomplished that. We responded at a time of great need, and the data shows it. We went from 6,000 to 16,000 services provided, 166% increase in 2 years. Wow. I need to take a breath. I know that there are going to be many questions in this area, and our entire team wants to answer them for you. I hope you have taken notes and will continue to read this on your own and contact us at support@modernwidowsclub.org. So the big question is, why aren't we receiving enough funding? Well, that's a mystery. But what we know is that the pandemic has severely disrupted revenue streams for nonprofits around the country. Recurring donations are down, fundraising opportunities were limited to virtual, and also just an overriding fear of the unknown caused people to hold on tight. And instead of freely giving to nonprofits, serving those in need, and widows are still not a priority, even during and after this widow-making pandemic. Widows have always been the backbone of this organization, the donations, the contributions, and that will continue. But we need to invite many others to come alongside and give of their talent and their time and their treasure. I've asked everyone I know. Now we must go out to places that are new and invite them in to join our cause. So let's move to the next page, which is our financial snapshot. Plain and simple, we are reliant on contributions from individuals, foundations, corporations, and attendees to our MWC programs and events. In order to function and exist, we must make good use of every dollar. As this chart shows, 85% of operational expenses in our two largest expense categories are program development and support, and community development and event development. This includes the people hired to create and run those programs. Only 15% of those expenditures are for management and general costs. Those are good percentages. This is a snapshot of 2021, and the changes have already been made in the last 6 months to reduce our expenses throughout 2022. To review our 2021 990, it is available on our website under financial statements. So you can go over there and find that and look at it a little bit more in detail. There is no other model to follow when it comes to innovating how widows are served better today and in the future. We are creating it as we are going along. And I can promise you that every day we work hard to ensure that widows receive the highest quality support that has ever been provided. But right now, we need to be lean in how we execute this because of the pandemic impact. It's no one's fault. It's just the sign of the times. The organizations that innovate and respond by understanding their cause intimately and making necessary shifts will prevail. Our annual budget for 2022 is $369,000 to cover all of our expenses. Our revenue as of today is $204,000. That's nearly what we raised in all of 2021. But we are still in a deficit from month to month and need more giving to happen. To put this in perspective, a donation of $1,010 would support 1 day of services for the 50,000 women in our organization. If we had 365 annual supporters at that level, we would be able to sustain our mission as we stand today for 1 full year. This works out to be about 365 donors giving $84 a month, or 730 donors giving about $42 a month. And I believe and I know that we can accomplish this. So now we're going to look to the next page and just looking to the future. And it's a lot more words. And what I want to share with this is that widows and their daughters, the ways that we can accomplish what I just said about that deficit and how we can stabilize and stay sustainable is I've got a list of ways that we can accomplish this. First of all, widows and their daughters can attend our Widow Empowerment event September 23rd through 25th in Scottsdale, Arizona. Currently, we have 106 registrations, but we have space for 144 more, totaling 250. We need to fill the room. We need to fulfill the program and have as many ladies and daughters as we can at that event. The second thing is by becoming a monthly recurring donor and not waiting for somebody else to do it. We currently have less than 100 recurring donors. That number must come up. All great organizations have a plethora of recurring donors at all different levels. So if Modern Widows Club has been there for you at some point, become a recurring donor for any amount at all, okay? By introducing us to foundations and corporations who you love and would love us, gives us, the ability to share our unique cause. And we can strive to inspire a new future for our underserved community. Now, page 13 gives you more information about the 7 pillars of healthy widowhood and how these key components for balanced wellness drives our growth. It's our strategy and it's our dream, okay? So I think we're going, did we do page 13? Yeah, so now this is page 14 and it's about our supporters. Your support makes this all happen. We're here driving and steering the bus, but the real fuel to keep us driving onward is because of your contribution. All of these folks listed here on this page that you'll be able to look at closer later is who we have to thank for getting us to July 14, 2022, today. They passionately gave and they celebrated with us during the pandemic. And on the next page, I just want to say, let's be proud. These are the other supporters on this page. There are so many ways to ensure her voice is heard. On the right-hand side here, that little area explores all the ways you can give. And I encourage you to read it later and consider giving in a way that is personally significant. I'm going to hand this over now to our communication director, Laurie Rich, so she can go over page 15.
Hi, everybody. We're so happy that you've joined us tonight. Thank you for being here. One of the key organizational strengths of our organization is those who selflessly give their skills, their knowledge, their experience to better the life of every widow who comes to us. In 2021, our dedicated donors and volunteers made 676 meetings and special events happen locally, nationally, internationally, and virtually. I think that's just astounding. And I'm so proud of everyone who worked so hard to do that. Volunteers, funding, and passionate leadership make MWC possible. It truly does take all three: selfless giving, holding hands, affirming value, and ensuring her voice is heard and that she is seen. We invite you to connect with us at support@modernwidowsclub.org to discuss the ways that you can get involved with our organization. I'm going to hand it over to Lynn Kienholz, our MWC Program Director, for page 16 and final thoughts.
Well, teamwork does make the dream work for sure. And so beyond the HQ team that you've talked to tonight and heard from today, we have Blake Lassiter and Pam Kircher on our board of directors. We also have a truly amazing advisory council that serves as a sounding board, along with bringing their expertise in their personal and professional areas to our organization. Our Golden Committee consists of financial advisors that provide guidance and connection within the financial community for us. And our Research Committee, as you heard earlier, talked many things about all of the research that we do. This is filled with mental health experts and those that wish to serve in this area, and they help us ensure that our research aligns with our objectives. We thank them for their donation of their time, their talent, and their treasures. Now, we unveiled a new logo early last year. And it's more than just a logo. It's really a story of who we are as an organization. The keystone at the top symbolizes Carolyn, and she anchors our organization. And the 59 circles around it represent the average age of a widow in the US. With the asymmetric design, it was created because we welcome widows of all ages, backgrounds, beliefs, partner statuses, and lost circumstances to our organization. Like I said, it's a story of who we are. Now, we want to thank you so much for joining us in this evening and celebrating widow courage with all of us here at MWC. Her voice is the reason that we are here. It takes courage for widows to say they can no longer accept what hasn't worked for them in the past. And it takes courage for them to keep going and rebuilding a life beyond devastating loss. It takes courage for widows supporters, like many of you, to listen to their stories, hear them, really hear them, and then join us in creating a new future for the widows of today and tomorrow. We so appreciate your time again this evening. You will receive an email tomorrow from us with a copy of the community report, along with some additional information and the links that we shared this evening. So you'll be able to rewatch the video. If you didn't get to catch all of it, you can do that there or read the community report as well. We thank you again for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you as you come alongside of us here in the coming weeks. Feel free to stick around and stay in the chat box. We'll be here for a little bit to answer your questions.